All right, guys, welcome back to Courage to Change. This is Brian Wright. It's my great honor to introduce you guys to Amy Jordan. Thank you, Amy, for doing this for me and sharing your story. So I asked around about a little background about you, and I asked a few women in recovery what stands out about Amy. So from Caitlin, she says her love for service, passion for carrying the message of hope, and helping other women out. And then I asked Chrissy Alexander what stands out about Amy. She said she's strong, she's resilient. She's like the person in the room who never has to say much, but when she says something, it's always powerful. That's awesome. And then I asked Candace to tell me a little bit about you, and she said she's a good example of what perseverance looks like.
Oh.
So how's that feel hearing from your peers, in recovery, and what the good things that they highlight about your personality and characteristics?
Yeah, I'm baffled because I know the person I used to be, and most of the people I knew didn't have much good to say about me.
Right.
And to have people that think of me in a high regard today, it feels like a miracle, like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool because what I like about what I notice about you, and when we're out in the sober living community, people just flock to you and they come up to you and they want to give you a hug, and it's like they surround themselves around you. They're like, you catch everyone's eye when you walk in the rooms, and to hear your story personally, and to see what the life challenges that you're still facing, it's just a testament to hope,
Yeah.
and what a program of recovery can do in your life.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your story, background and bottom.
Okay. My background, I guess I could say that I come from a good family. There was no drinking or craziness in my home, but I wanted to try it. And
Right.
so I definitely made friends that would, their parents did that, and I was rebellious from the very first. All the lessons my family tried to teach me, I just ignored. So I started drinking and drugging when I was 12 years old, and it just got worse and worse and worse until I was about 39.
So what time? How old were you when you started?
I started drinking and using marijuana at 12.
12. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then it progressed, of course, to speed pills. They were called White Crosses 100 years ago when I was in high school. Yeah, and then in college came the heavier drugs.
Right.
Yeah, and it got a lot worse with that.
So what does some of your bottoms look like?
I've got lots of kind of small bottoms. I've put myself in some very dangerous places, and I've been hurt in the name of trying to put myself in places where drugs and alcohol were. When my mom passed away, when I was pregnant with my second daughter, and that was a pretty tough time. It wasn't enough to stop me from continuing to drink and drug. But then getting arrested was basically the final straw for me, and losing custody of my kids. I threw my
Right.
career away and had nothing.
And what were your charges?
I had 4 felony drug charges, possession of a controlled dangerous substance, possession with intent, paraphernalia, and drug proceeds. And I think there was something maybe in the presence of a minor, something like that.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And then your turning point.
Yeah. Well, my turning point happened when I had to go to court for the first time, and my arraignment hearing happened, and the person that I thought was going to be my attorney, he referred me to some people that he knew that were in recovery, and so he said, unless you make a lot of big changes in your life, you're going to go to prison, sweetheart.
Right.
And so I took his advice only in the name of not going to prison.
Right.
And went and met those friends, and my life started to change.
Okay, and what steps did you take towards change? And if so, for me, it was like I had to see what recovery looked like,
Yeah.
and I wasn't fully sold on it until I saw someone that attracted me, that I identified with, that made me turn that corner.
Yeah.
And I started doing what they did. Was it similar for you?
Very much. I kind of thought I was just perpetually different than everybody else. And it really pissed me off that some of those friends were laughing all the time.
Right.
Because I had serious problems.
Right.
And, they can't be the same as me
Right.
if they can laugh if they've had these same problems.
Right.
But I saw them living and joyous, and despite their problems. And little by little, I started realizing that I want what they have.
Right.
And, I little by little began to get more interested in joining in with them instead of feeling like an outsider. And certain people kind of said, well, come hang out with us.
Right.
And so a friend of mine, Willie, he invited me to go to dinner with people and just kind of hang out, and started realizing there was actually fun to be had in recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember you speaking at one time about you had a live-in boyfriend, and you guys were like, he was selling drugs. Was that it?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I had been sober a year, and I was only allowed to see my children at their dad's house under supervised visitation. I couldn't understand that it was because I had a boyfriend still living at my house that was doing things that I shouldn't have been around.
Right.
Even though I was sober. And I don't know if you want me to tell the whole story, but he stole my car one night.
Right.
He told me he was going to take it and go out, and I said, no, you're not. And kind of a little fight happened, and he demolished my home, threw food and Kool-Aid on the walls.
Right.
And he pinned me down on the couch and shoved $5 in my mouth and said, this is for gas money.
Right.
And he left in my car. And I sat on the floor and looked at the devastation in my home, and I realized I got a lot more to change. I'm still living the same life even though I'm sober.
Right.
And so I started making more changes, and I got even closer to the women that I was friends with and let them guide me and hold my hand more. And it just kind of took me to a new stage. I'll tell you, I kicked him out within maybe a week, and moved into another apartment without him, and my daughter came to live with me maybe a month later, and I got one of my kids back. So
Yeah. So what is that? That's cool.
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with your daughter today?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. She is grown. We call each other or text almost every day. She shares her life with me, and she's finally starting to realize that I've been through some of the things she's going through.
Right.
And we get to have a give and take relationship. And the crazy thing is, she helps me more than she realizes when she shares herself with me, because I give her advice or tell her what I've been through, and then I walk away just feeling more and more grateful that God saved me,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So a question that Caitlin wanted me to ask you is how do you balance mentoring women and business and family in your own personal recovery?
That's a good question.
Right.
I've been working on it for more than 10 years
Right.
now. And I just try to trust God. And early on, maybe around 2 years of recovery, I was really out of balance. I didn't know how to balance it at all. I was used to my whole entire life being recovery and work. And then as I started getting more and more responsibilities, I got custody of my kids back. I had to seek the direction of some women who were a little bit older and more experienced than me, who had to figure out how to balance those things myself. And they showed me what to do and taught me, and I took their advice, and today I just do what's right in front of me. I count on my schedule a lot, and putting it on Google Calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I've got lots of layers of balance, but I just, even if I'm tired, I keep my commitments today, and that's what I do.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because like I remember we were trying to set up the schedule this visit, and you sent me a list of your openings, and I thought that was so cool. I was like, that's it right there. It's good stuff. I need to be more like that. I need to be more, have a list and stick to it.
Yeah.
So I'm learning from you. So let's go back to your to your mom. My dad passed away in 09, 08, and I used that to fuel the fire of my addiction, and I went crazy, so I was trying I was literally trying to kill myself, and I used that as a scapegoat to what was really going on was I was angry.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was mad at a lot of things that happened when I was a kid and in the house, and I was upset that he was gone, and there's still some questions unanswered. So is that similar for you? Like coming when your mom passed away, like
Yeah.
as far as your addiction?
I think my mom passing away, I more hid from the pain and maybe I didn't even deal with it, and I escaped from it, from drugs.
Right.
I don't know that I had a lot of anger, but I had a lot of hurt that I didn't know how to deal with.
Right.
And so definitely drugs and alcohol gave me the escape that I thought that I needed.
Right.
Because that was, it took me a lot of years to be able to not feel heartbroken
Right.
about losing her.
Right. Okay. And so I remember asking you after I saw you speak, and I asked you about relationships, because that's a big thing in recovery as far as us trying to fill the void or coming out of toxic relationships. And then sometimes we choose to do what we're used to, even while we're sober.
Mm-hmm.
We choose the same things all over again.
Yeah.
And even though we're sober, it's still painful trying to work it out. And what you told me was, right now, I'm dating God. And I was like, that's so cool. I was like, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So when did you get to that point? Is it after trying again in relationships, in sobriety?
Well, yeah, okay, that's a good question. And in 2013, I think I've been sober maybe 3 or 4 years, and a guy was really cute,
right.
And he was new, so I wouldn't even give him phone numbers for a year, and
right.
Then we decided to give it a try to date exclusively, and we dated for a little bit more than a year. But I came gradually to realize that I didn't have enough time to balance, like you mentioned earlier,
right.
Recovery and my children and my job, the girls that I work with. And so I just decided, and basically God just changed me and helped me to realize that it wasn't fair. I wasn't able to give enough to everyone.
Right.
So I told that person that I had to end the relationship, and since then I just knew where my priorities needed to be, and kind of the desire to have a companion that was a relationship that way. I don't really have that desire. I get to build my relationship with God,
right.
And I find God through the women that I work with, and through being a mom and being an employee and a daughter, and that's just where my relationship status is today, and it may change tomorrow, who
right.
knows, but yeah.
Right. I think that's so cool, because like the awareness and how if we do the work, God can transform us.
Yeah.
And that's where we gain peace and strength. we're able to tackle those life challenges that face us. And like I like what you said earlier, like you thought we think we're different and we think we're special, like we're the only ones dealing with these things, you know. And when we do the work, we see that we're not. We spend time with God. We see that we're not so much different, and that it's important to do things like this and share, because that's how we grow.
Yeah, that's right. I keep what I have by giving it away.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so superhero. Might there be a superhero that you identify with that you could, if you could be, you would be, and if not, then superpower?
Yeah, superhero is kind of tough.
Okay.
You know, I can't think of a superhero, but
Okay.
I can say that's kind of for me, a superpower, if I could have one, it would be somehow to be able to let people see the value that they have in their life.
That's good.
And that how much God loves them and how taken care of they already are, whether they know it or not.
That's so good.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's the superpower I want.
That's good. I like that. Okay, and vision for you. So like maybe 2 to 3, 4 years down the road, in a perfect world, what does your life look like?
You know, this is going to sound weird, but I feel like my life is exactly like it's supposed to be today. In a perfect world, everyone would be safe and peaceful and live in serenity.
Right.
And they would know a higher power.
Right.
I hope that my life in 1 year, 5 years, 50 years is the same, in that I'm sober and I do the simple things every day that I've done so far, and I get to be sober and continue to live my purpose, which is trying to carry a message of hope to people.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, and so if there's anything that you would tell a woman out there in recovery or still trying to find their way, a piece of advice, what would you give them, maybe?
I tell her to don't stop trying. She's beautiful just the way she is. She has everything she needs, and not to be afraid to reach out to someone that's trying to carry the light for her.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done here.
Thank you.
This is Brian Rice's Courage Change with Amy Jordan. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.
Okay.